He told me he was too old. In fact, he's told me he's too old on multiple occasions. But the question really is, am I too old to start competing again? Now, I'm going to tell you today about one of my longest standing clients. I would call him a true brother, Shahid, who has been an absolute role model to anyone who thinks they are too old to get fit, to get strong, and to compete again. This is a man that's been on a roller coaster journey with me. And today, I stand proud. Yes, okay, I'm much younger, but as I frame myself the bigger brother to him, I'm the proudest bigger brother that I could ever be. Because this man hasn't just transformed his fitness, his health, his well-being. He's transformed his life. I've seen him grow like a caterpillar to a butterfly. This man is, in the best way possible, completely different to how I knew him before. And it's allowed him to excel in multiple facets of life. But the only thing I'm going to really talk about today is his transformation within fitness, within sport, within health. And I'm going to load up some little snippets of how this has also loaded his life, his relationships, and his career. Shahid has been one of my longest standing clients. Over 3 years now, we have been working together. And that has allowed me to really work on every single angle with him. But he didn't come to me first. He reached out to the brand I was working with. And he had completely different goals to who he is working towards today. Those goals were based on aesthetics, on wanting to lose body fat, on wanting to get leaner, on wanting to build muscle, the way I used to coach. And when I got linked up with Shahid, there was an instant connection there. Our first call together, we really vibed. And I don't often say this and I don't often feel this, but this was someone I felt after I got off that call with, I'm going to help this man transform. And for me, a transformation is way more than the physique, way more than the picture. Because I want to think deeply. I want to work with you, with anyone way below the surface level. So the first 12-week block, because that's how I work, 12 weeks at a time. The first 12-week block was all about losing body fat, all about creating healthy habits, routines, understanding what good nutrition looked like, understanding what tough, intense, but purposeful training looked like. And within that first 12 weeks, Shahid made incredible progress. In fact, it wasn't much more than 12 weeks where he actually got through his first fat loss phase, losing in the process over 9 kilograms and achieving that leaner, athletic physique that he was looking for. All at the ripe young age of 43. For most men who are stuck in a rut like Shahid, and again, he framed it himself, believe you are too old after 40 to get in real good shape. I smell bullshit. And Shahid's proof of that bullshit. The achievements he made. Lost 9 kg. He built abs. His muscles became defined. But this is what I'm saying. All within that first 12-week block, it was all about the physique. Fast forward 12 months, 24 months, and the goals changed. PBs in the gym, lifting over 125 kg back squat, deadlifting close to 200 kilograms, running his first 16-kilometer race, and also getting involved in huge bike rides and cycling events. This is a man that's completely flipped the script on his life. And instead of going through the usual biological process of getting older, I'd argue that he's actually getting younger as the years have gone by. This is proof, not only that what I do, but what you can do from today will impact who you are next year, and the year after that, and 5 years down the line. You don't have to get older according to your biological age. Life doesn't end after 30, 35, 40. You have the power to create the future that you want. You just have to want it enough. And you also have to want to run away from the possibilities of not wanting it enough. So who Shahid was, or is, because as I say, Shahid is still someone I'm working with and a very close friend indeed because of this relationship. But Shahid came to me nothing like the man he is today. He was overweight, probably looking at around 22, 23, maybe even 25% body fat. He was stressed. He worked a busy job. He was out on the road all day, visiting customers, visiting clients. He picked up a lot of unhealthy habits over the years. And I won't go into detail because that's Shahid's business. But he won't mind me saying that he had a lot of internal demons that were maybe getting the better of him over the course of his life. This resulted in stress coming out, falling off the wagon a little bit, and not really giving himself the best environment to thrive in regarding his health, regarding his fitness. He needed my help. And as I said, straight after that call, I was so passionate to help him. At the start, the objective was physique, abs, lose the belly fat. And that's fine because Shahid was in a place where his physique was the biggest stressor in his life in regards to how it was making him feel. So of course, at this point, we're not going to think about competing. We're going to think about getting him in a good, healthy mindset, a good physical state before we then progress him to what we can see he is truly capable of. He had a decent start for sure, but that wasn't without its hurdles. I remember particularly in the first 6 months, regularly I'd get that text of doubt from Shahid. And he won't mind me saying this. He doubted himself, thought that this was unattainable. It was too difficult. Whether it was the diet, whether it was consistently training, whether it was dealing with stress. And we had to work together closely. And I think the belief that I instilled in Shahid is what he thrives on today, because the man believes so strongly nowadays. His confidence has gone from way below here to up here in all departments. And that's incredible to see. That's more powerful than any transformational picture in my eyes. But it still wasn't quite everything. He was missing something. Something to sink his teeth into. Something to really work towards. Because once we hit that physique goal, and yes, we did the rebuild. Yes, we did the diet cut, reverse diet cut, built some muscle. Shahid's an ambitious person, and I could sense that from the start. He needed more. He needed more when it came to fitness. He needed more challenge, more focus, more priorities. So we decided, maybe 18 months to 2 years in, that we should reframe our goals. We should think about what we actually want to achieve and what means more to us. Is it just looking good 24/7, 365 all year round? But with that comes the stress of staying lean, the constant focus on your diet, sleep, training. Because that's kind of where we were at with Shahid. He would only be super happy if we were looking at physique side of things when he looks his best. And that goes for all of us. If we know we can look better, anything less is a little bit demoralizing to us. But we know, or we should know, that to look, quote unquote, our best takes absolute dedication. It takes restriction. It takes compromising. And unless you're competing in a bodybuilding show, unless you're working towards a photo shoot, what's the point? You're sacrificing the joy of life to be that little bit leaner, that little bit more aesthetic. So after a bit of back and forth and trying to convince Chai, we finally decided, let's train and eat to perform. We didn't know what for yet, so I simply just set some goals in the gym. His lifts, the strength, the HIIT sessions, the metcons. Could we get better with skills? Could we get stronger? Could we feel more powerful? Because at the end of the day, we're men. We're men and we want to feel powerful. And I always phrase this as a way of, if your loved one, your wife, your girlfriend, your partner, your kids, your parents, just imagine for a second, and touch wood this never happens, but just imagine for a second where they're in danger. There's an intruder in the house, wild animal, something, and you have to protect them. And if you didn't feel like you could protect them, or even worse, you couldn't protect them because you don't have the strength, the power, the energy, the fitness to do it, then what's the point? You are the alpha, or you should be, and you should be working towards that. And if you feel you could not, as that safety net for your family, for your circle, then something's not right. And I know firsthand, when you're at your leanest, when you're cutting, when you're dieting to look super shredded, you're probably going to be the first one that gets torn up by that bear because you are weak, you are fatigued, you are nowhere near your full potential. And I didn't quite frame it like that to Chai, but what I did frame it like is, how would it make you feel to feel stronger? To lift more than you've ever lifted, to feel powerful, to feel energized all the time. And I linked it to what was important to him. His work, his long-term partner, Anina, the house projects that he's working on now, physical labor pretty much every single day. These are the real life situations where our athletic capabilities really come into play. So, moving into the system that I work with, the 12 block system. Now, I've already mentioned now what the first 12 weeks actually looked like. It was all about setting a standard, setting a routine, setting a consistent way of living so that we could, ultimately lose the initial body fat we wanted to lose. And as I told you, it wasn't easy, it wasn't straight, it wasn't linear. There was hiccups during that first 12 weeks. But that goes for anyone. You're changing a lot. And self-doubt can creep in. But after that, and after we achieved the first 12 weeks, the fat loss that we wanted to, then we moved into a more exciting phase about building muscle, building strength. But that didn't come without its challenges. And it's the same because I experienced this myself. We get scared. We've been in a place where we've been a little bit heavier, a little bit fluffier, and we all have a relative gauge on what that looks to us. It doesn't matter if you were 5 kilos heavier or 20 kilos heavier. We all share that same worry, fear of gaining that fat back, of being that person that we didn't like before. And it's not just about the looks, it's the habits, it's the things that come with that. And Chahid experienced the exact same. Check-ins would come, he'd throw his pictures in there. He'd even know the reason why he might look a little bit bloated, but yet he'd tell himself that he looked disgusting, using really derogatory words about himself. And I had to teach him, I had to say, look, when we're in a phase like this, we do have to compromise looks of the standard social media standards in regards to we're not going to be as lean as we can be forever. It's just impossible. And then I had to ask him, how did you feel when you were that lean? Did you enjoy what you were doing? Did you feel strong? Did you feel energized? Okay, 6 out of 10, maybe a 7 out of 10 in some, but not the best. How do you feel now? Stronger than I've ever been. Super energized. When we do our metcons, I feel fit as a fiddle. Then fantastic. That is where you want to be. We're all a different body type. We all reach our optimum, our maximum potential at different levels of body fat. Again, I know this. When I'm super lean, when I'm probably below 10%, I might look better. But what is better? Because I don't feel better. I don't perform better when I carry a little bit of extra weight. And by extra, I mean what? 2% body fat, a few extra kilos. I feel healthy. I feel energized. I feel strong. I don't get as many niggly injuries. In fact, I feel that I recover from the injuries that have come on from being too lean. And I'm not even going into the real depths of my sort of dieting days, because that's for another podcast. This is about Chahid. So as I said, when we started stacking those 12-week blocks, we saw improvements. We did have 2 or 3, let's call them mini cuts. Typically when summer came round, he might have a holiday that he wanted to go on, or, you know, he maybe really got in his head so much that he wanted to lose that little bit of extra fluff that he'd put on from his gaining phase. That's fine. But the real turning point came at the end of last year, 2025. This was when Chahid realised being strong, fit, durable, mobile is far greater as a man and a woman, to be fair. Anyone, any human being should opt for this feeling over looks, over aesthetics. And the funny thing is, the looks come with feeling fast, feeling strong, feeling fit. They really do. And I will not be surprised if over the next 10 years that the perception of beauty points more towards the look of strong, of fueled, of energized. The really lean, the really ripped people or look becomes less aesthetic. It becomes less optimized, because we know, and we're starting to understand, that is not when someone is at their fittest and healthiest. So since then, I'm going to give you some facts and figures now. Since we flipped the script, and Chahid's been through a full circle. We actually worked to a photo shoot, and I'm going to pin some of those photos up for you so you can see. He looked incredible, of course, but that was the aesthetic peak of our block. Now it's about performance. As I said, the man has ran 2 16-kilometer races since we've been working together. But the real shift, the real numbers have come in the gym. The big lifts. He's repping 3 squats at 120 kg. The man is tall. The man is 6 foot. I want to say 2, Chahid, you can correct me. Long limbs, so that's a great number. He's deadlifting 180 for 3. I've tasked him with reaching the big 200 this year for 1, and I really think he's almost there. He's benching 225 pounds, 100 kilos. Again, long arms. It's difficult for that type of athlete. But that's not all. His pull-ups are so smooth, so strong, so mobile. Literally last week he was doing 25 kilos on top of his body weight for 5 clean reps. We're working on his endurance. We've had to park that a little bit for his house project, but we will pick that up again, because I have prompted Chahid to aim for a fitness race. It doesn't have to be high rocks, but something along those lines. The man is capable. And if anyone's watching who feels that they're in that same boat, they've been improving, their numbers are going up, they're feeling fit, fucking prove it to yourself. Challenge yourself. But it's expensive. But I don't want to pay this for... You go out for a meal at the weekend, especially if you live in the UK, you take your partner, you have a few drinks, it's 200 quid. At least, if you're going for a nice meal. These events, okay, I understand high rocks can be expensive, you have to think about travel, but there's smaller events like the Deadly Dozen, and it's maybe 60, 70 pounds for a ticket. Usually it's a day event, so you just have to think about travel on top of that. Great. And these are really good quality events. You're against good athletes. It'll give you a fantastic measure of where you're at. And they're fucking amazing days out, especially if you get a group of you going together. So after we've put in this work with Chide, the story's not over. The story is being written as we speak. And to add to this story, I'll add some personal things to this. As I've mentioned a couple of times through this podcast, he's now building his dream house with his partner Anina. Building it from a barn. He has been heavily involved in the manual labour. Albeit he may have been involved before we started working together, but during this time he's not stopped training and he's felt energised during the manual labour. He's actually been a key figurehead in getting things done on time. He plays in a band. Really good band actually. The music's fantastic. It's called Risen. And he said during his performances on stage, he feels way fitter. He's not out of breath after a song. He feels like more confident in his body up on stage. Of course, his relationship is thriving. Who knows? There may be a child at some point in the future. I'm not hinting anything, Chide. But if there ever is, then he's in a prime position to provide. Because if you know or not, if you're not very healthy, it's unlikely that your goods aren't going to be very healthy either. And the biggest thing for me, watching Chide grow and transform, is his mindset. The guy is so different. He's so positive now. He welcomes challenge. He takes on responsibility. And of course, I'm always there as his support network. For as long as he wants to work with me, I will be there by his side, like his big brother that I've been for the past 3 years. But he is so much more capable of taking on his own battles now, dealing with the smaller stuff, understanding how to adapt. And that is how you maintain a level of health and fitness that's going to let you live a highly quality life. Now, I could read you some messages that he sent to me over the past. I've probably got 20, 30, 40 messages thanking me, but I don't want to make this about me. Yes, I gave him the tools. Yes, I gave him the resources and the support and the accountability. But Chide has done this on his own in regards to, he had to put the work in. He had to make the changes. He had to adapt. And that goes for anyone I work with. That goes for anyone that ever works with a coach. The coach will not give you a magic potion. We cannot do the work for you. And what you learn by working with a good quality coach doesn't have to be me. I would always suggest working with a coach to succeed, to get the best results possible, and to understand how to live the life you want to live. Because if you're unhappy with where you're at now, if you feel like there's something missing, even if you want to just take yourself from level 1 to level 2 to level 3, get someone in your corner. I do. I have someone in my corner for my CrossFit because I want to take that to levels that I probably wouldn't be able to get to on my own, or at least nowhere near as quickly. So the message for you from this podcast: too old is a myth. It's not fact. The only time it becomes fact is when you allow it to. The body still can change at 30, at 40, at 50. You can teach an old dog new tricks. You can find a new passion after 30, after 40, after 50. But the longer you leave it, the less time you're giving yourself. And you have to give yourself a reason to do it. Not surface level, it's got to be deep. So, next week, or next episode, depends when I want to record it, I stopped dieting and got leaner. What? How? Let me tell you how, because I am going to explain exactly what I mean by that. And it's not just about getting leaner, it's about being healthier. Finally, before we sign off, what, if any sport whatsoever that you know about now, and there's no barriers to entry for you, what would you compete in? Tell me in the comments, because I want to know, and of course I'm going to reply to every single one. But for now, that's it. See you on the competition floor. Peace.